Hi, my name is Peebly, and Hokum. If you haven't watched it yet, Chud, Adam Scott is in it, and if I were in an elevator alone with that man, I'd come out pregnant. And that's not even possible, but it would happen. Anyways, this isn't a video on Adam Scott. When I see people talk about this movie, I notice that a lot of people focus on the theme of grief and family trauma. But when watching the movie, there was something else that stuck out to me. To me, Hokum was a reflection of how women are treated within a patriarchal society and how that punishes them. Now, before you call me the woker, let me explain. Actually, you're probably still gonna call me the woker. But one of the inciting incidents that kicks off the horror of the movie is when Adam Scott's character, hangs himself. The only reason why is found is because Fiona, one of the two characters we meet in the movie in which has any sort of positive interaction with, and seemingly the only woman who works at the Bilberry Hotel, has a gut instinct that something is wrong when she tries to return a lost item of Ohm's to no response. He immediately cuts down the rope and gets him hospitalized. And quick side note, I don't know what the item she uses is to cut down the rope, because to me, when I was watching it, I thought it looked like a potato peeler, but it's probably not a potato peeler, so I'm just gonna call it a knife for future reference. Ohm's attempt happens at the beginning part of the movie, and after he comes out of the hospital, he finds that Fiona is missing, and so is Jerry, the second character had any positive interaction with. And Jerry is a homeless man who lives in the woods next to the hotel. Jerry is friends with Fiona, to our knowledge, and therefore, it is assumed by the other male characters in the movie that Jerry is the main suspect for this missing persons case. It is also revealed a little later in the movie that Jerry had killed his wife about a decade prior, but Jerry tells now whether this is true or not, never find out, but it seems to be true based off of the character that Jerry is portraying. But we find out that Jerry mercy killed his wife basically because she was in insufferable pain. However, that part isn't known to the general public. Jerry is one of 3 men in this movie who had killed a woman in their past. I personally found Jerry to be quite an interesting character. Homeless and he lives off the land, but he sometimes scavenges from the hotel. And he spends a lot of his time getting drunk or high off mushrooms that he found in the wood. That said, Jerry revealing that he killed his wife is a sympathetic moment, or at least is portrayed to be, but I believe this ties into some deeper meanings that the movie displays within its ending. I'll bring that up later. For now, I want to talk about the Bilberry Hotel. The hotel is owned by a Mr. Cobb, and when we meet him, he's seen telling children to be wary of a witch who wishes to drag them to hell. His son-in-law, Mal, has a high-standing position within the hotel, and is the only other person, other than Fergal, that Cobb trusts to have the honeymoon suite key. This establishes that the hotel is ran on a hierarchy of men. Fergal even says his relatives, he implies to be men, operate the guard post, so these men are deeply entwined in the hotel's operations. When viewing this, I saw this as a sort of reflection or a parallel to patriarchal societies, much like the one that most first world countries operate under. So within this patriarchy that is the hotel, we find that Mal commits an act of infidelity with Fiona, and he ends up getting her pregnant. When she reveals this to him, he drugs her and takes her to the honeymoon suite, in which he sends her unconscious body down a dumbwaiter to the basement in which a witch is trapped in, assuming that the witch would take care of her. And by that, I mean, like, kill her, not, like, raise her up as a fledgling witch. Although that would have been a much better, ending for her character, but I don't think that's the point of the movie. This leaves Mal to get off scot-free, and his crimes would be hidden thanks to the structure of the hotel and the people who decide that the honeymoon suite is to never be entered, not even to the police. Which, I don't live in Ireland, sometimes I wish I did, but if this was in America, I feel like they wouldn't be able to get away with not showing the police the honeymoon suite. Actually, I take that back. I think they could get away with it very easily because they are white men. Call me the woker. Now, in real life, in a patriarchal society like the one we live in now, we see innumerable cases of men getting away with drugging and harming women. And when we wonder how they keep getting away with this, we have to look at the that protect the men doing this. And then there's also the men that would rather protect their fellow man instead of admitting that one of their own committed a heinous act upon another human. I find this to be the parallel to Fergal's character in the hotel's patriarchal society election world. When Ohm questions Fergal if the honeymoon suite has been searched in after Jerry says he saw Fiona's ghost leading him to it, Fergal insists that there was nothing there because it's locked up, and won't even consider the possibility that someone who has access to the key, such as Mal, would allow someone else to use it, or use it himself. Very easily, Fergal could take Ohm up there just to clear his mind and take a look around, or Fergal could search for him. But instead he'd rather defend the other men and the hotel, or in this case, the institution, saying it's not a possibility. While Fiona was drugged, on her person, she had Ohm's audio recorder, as when she went to return it to him initially, she was met with, well, Ohm not really being in a position to take it back. Something to note is how Fiona's corpse is in relatively good condition. Not maimed or anything, nor was she shackled like Ohm and Mal were later on interacted with the witch. Given the time jump between her being trapped in the basement to when Ohm found her, I believe she died due to starvation or dehydration. Especially because Mal was taken by the entity in the basement, never had his body uncovered. Continuing on with that, let's talk about the witch for a second. It's unclear whether or not she's a strictly malicious being, but what is clear is that she at the very least punishes those who have done harm to women, as we see with Ohm and Mal. And to survive being dragged into the basement entity, like Mal was, you have to come to terms with the harm you've done, like Ohm did to his mother. We know that Mr. Cobb is the one who traps the witch in the basement, as we're told by other characters throughout the movie. Given the through line that we've been following, however, I don't believe that this was an entirely heroic act on Cobb's end. But we only hear what happens from those who came out alive and well from the situation. We see that sentiment echoed throughout the movie quite a bit, with Mal feeding misinformation to other people constantly about Fiona's and later Ohm's situation. We also know that Cobb is telling stories to children about the witch, we currently find to be in an undesirable situation, to be wary of this figure, and telling horror stories about her, seeding distrust of women or effeminate figures in the youth. That part might be a little bit of a stretch. However, if we're following this through line in this narrative, it does make sense that that would be the intention. Additionally, and this part's very speculative, but the witch being trapped below the honeymoon suite and being trapped by Cobb has some less than savory implication. Could it be that Cobb did something similar to the witch as to what Mal did to Fiona? There's a part of this movie in which I believe Mal recounts a story of a woman who locked herself in the honeymoon suite, and that story could potentially be referring to the witch was locked up by Cobb. We don't have enough information about this, but if it is to tie to the idea that the hotel acts as a reflection of a patriarchy, a lot of times women are villainized as seen as trying to ruin men or doing things for attention, like seen with a lot of backlash during the Me Too movement. While the men of the hotel would describe this woman as hysterical, or what have you, referring to the woman who locked herself in the honeymoon suite, we don't get to see what that woman's perspective is, just like we don't get to see the witch's perspective, or a lot of real-life victims' perspectives. Back to the basement, how does Ohm get out of the shackles after his mother's ghost confronts him? He uses the knife that Fiona used to cut him down earlier. Ohm is being pushed into surviving, into not dying throughout the course of the movie, and multiple times he could have died, by women, the very few women who are included in the movie. Even the witch herself could be considered to have helped him. He would not have come to reconciliation with the murder of his mother if not being for in this situation, and he would not have escaped the basement if not for his mother's ghost, and then the knife left by Fiona. What I'm saying is, essentially, Ohm is able to come out of this situation healthy and better off because of women. That said, reference the popular Jubilee clip, and who set that system up. Ohm would not be in this situation if it were not for the men of the hotel. Mal's the one who locks him inside after all. So, Ohm survives and comes out better for it. But what of the women of the film? They were all shown to have tried to help men and or were associated with men and were punished for it. The witch was locked away for who knows how long, and Ohm's mom and Fiona were punished for being mothers. Whether it be Ohm's father's negligence in where he keeps firearms, or mal-murdering Fiona to keep his sins a secret. Not a single woman survives this movie, as women can't survive in a patriarchal society. Sure, the hotel burnt down, but the system extends past it. To come to my last point, be in a patriarchy, incur violence. Okay, this really makes me sound like the woker, you guys, but hear me out. I think this is reflected best by Ohm's book that he's writing. The conquistador, historically a profession known for its bloody conquests, resolve is that either he or the child has to die. That's the only way the bottle will open. Mal's solution to Fiona's pregnancy is to kill her. Jerry's solution, to bring him back up from earlier, to his wife's illness is to kill her, not dissimilar to a dying dog. Fergal's solution to the goats is to kill them. Ohm's solution to getting Albie to stop talking to him is literally burn him. And Albie's solution to his frustration is to drug Ohm. What's Fiona's solution to Ohm's rudeness when they first meet each other? To walk away. The child's answer to the conquistador's resolve? To leave behind the bottle. And this is why I say women can't survive in a patriarchy, because a woman's answer is to walk away. A man's answer is to destroy. When the child tosses the bottle, the conquistador breaks down sobbing. Can't fathom a third option in which neither of them end up dead. When Ohm proposes that Fergal doesn't kill the goat, Fergal refuses, saying that there's no other way. When in a patriarchy, men will choose violence. And if you want evidence for this claim, look at all of history. History for many of the first world nations or the major nations of their times were run by men. And historically, they have shown to be bloody and doing massive acts of violence upon other groups that they don't agree with. Just because, well, why coexist when an established dominance? Or you could take over and impose your own will. I want to bring up, if you remember going through the Me Too movement when that was really big, there was a phrase that was really popular during it, especially for me, that I heard especially for me when I was surrounded by other boys who are my age. A lot of them would say the phrase, equal rights, fights. Women simply don't want to fear for their lives anymore on the daily. Meanwhile, men's response is that they should be able to commit domestic violence. Equal rights, equal fights. And I think them shows a dim, bleak light on this reality. The men continue on, feeling better about themselves after the horrors are over, but the women are still dead. The women are still dead. And that's the horror of Hokum. That the women are still dead. I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. It's my first video like this, and I have a lot of ideas that I might want to execute in the future. Before we end the video, I just want to mention a couple of thoughts I had about the movie that aren't really related to this main idea, but I think they are really interesting and shows off sort of maybe other ways that the hotel could be reflecting a patriarchy. But it's a little shaky on on that thought process. And the first thing I want to mention is that when Jerry goes missing at the same time as Fiona, it is assumed that Jerry was the person who took Fiona because they were both missing. However, that is to say, it's not even considered that Jerry and Fiona are both in a bad situation, and they're both missing for bad reasons, instead of Jerry being the bad reason. And I do think this has to do with the fact that he is homeless. A lot of times in our society, and especially a patriarchal society, we see that homelessness is shown off to be associated with being a violent or dangerous individual. And potentially it has something to do with a man not being able to provide for a home, or just being seen as a failure, or there must be something wrong with this person because they don't have a home. So that's just something I found really interesting. And another part that I do want to mention is that with all the witches' trinkets down there, it makes me wonder if this isn't the first time Mal has done something to this, or even Cobb. Maybe he's been throwing people down onto the witch. But I don't really have a way to know. I'm not the most informed on Irish folklore, and when I was trying to do research, it seemed like a lot of the inspiration for the witch was original, only taking bits and pieces from folklore. Regardless, it's just curious. Anyways, if you like this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and if you want to support me, consider commissioning me on one of the socials listed in my description. And after uploading this video, I will probably be live on Twitch playing Deadlock poorly, or Marvel Rivals, so see me then. Okay, thanks for watching, and bye.